Welcome back after this short break. I'm back in my role of MC after delivering my content. The panel that is about to start will focus on the role of the ecosystems in the new normal. We heard about all this wealth of innovation, how it's been responding, and of course all this innovation has been catalyzed by multiple ecosystems around the world that I like to think are happily kind of connected together in and around the Frontiers Health concept, which was born as a house of the multiple communities globally to basically connect everyone together. This next panel will be focusing on how this role will likely evolve into the new normal. And there are a lot of good things that we have done over the past years. So I'm really curious to hear from leaders of the global ecosystems what we will be doing next together. And to lead this panel, we will have a very dear friend of mine that, of course, has been playing a role since quite a few years in the global digital health ecosystem. And this person is Eugene Borukovic. Eugene, welcome to the virtual Frontiers Health stage.
Thank you, Roberto.
Hi, man.
How you
so
doing?
Great to see you. So I need to ask you, where are you quasi still sheltering from?
So I'm really sheltering from New Jersey. We came here around March, and this is the real deal, as I call it, is our New Jersey startup Silicon Valley garage man cave, and hence I'm hiding it under your coach logo.
That's cool. Okay, my friend. So I'm really excited to see you handling this panel where it's, there's a bunch of friends on. So without any other further ado, I'll leave the line to you and we'll see you later. Thank you so much. Stage is yours.
There we are.
How's it going, man?
I think everybody can hear me, so I'm gonna just take it off. Roberto, thank you very much. I'm gonna kick it off a little bit. So my biggest decision point this morning or this afternoon, actually Jessica DeMassa pinged me with a picture of one of the conferences where the global ecosystems got together, and I kind of thought about looked at myself in that picture, and I said, I think I'm gonna put my conference attire on, so my t-shirt.
Yeah, you're overdressed, Eugene.
I know, but I felt like I needed to do this, right?
Yeah.
And then the other aspect, I actually I think we all thinking through in using a lot of buzzwords out there, and actually decided to look up what does a global ecosystem mean. There was a lot of things, but something just kind of resonated, and I will read this for the audience slowly, but also take this in. I'm going to read it very slowly.
Eugene.
Yeah.
How big is the audience? Who's actually listening to us? Is it just ourselves, or is there anyone out there?
No, there's I don't know, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. So
last number I heard was 3,000.
Get out of here!
Behave yourself.
Marty looks like he's watching a movie right now.
Look, Christian, it's 8 o'clock on a Friday night in Ireland. The pubs are closed, right? So this is.
I saw your glass of wine.
This is all I got. You're like, there's no draft Guinness here, guys. I'm like.
Cool. So
guys, let me do a little takeover of this. I knew this panel would have been interesting, but not that soon. So I just want to say that we surpassed the 5,000 contacts. So wow. I'm really counting on you to, knock this to the next level. So okay. I'll go off screen now.
No
Enjoy.
pressure.
We're gonna double it. So before everybody introduces themselves, I just want to read, because we've all been using this, global ecosystem, I think, as a buzzword, and this resonated with me. A global ecosystem functions according to undiscovered laws of very large systems and will support only those activities which operate within these undiscovered and perhaps unknown laws. And actually, if I step back, and I think most of you guys, and you will each introduce yourself quickly, we go back roughly a decade plus, right? And there hasn't been a lot of these laws, and we've been operating this sometimes locally, but thinking globally. And I think all of you guys on there at, at least 8, 10, 12 been in the industry of digital health. So with that, I'll pick on Marty to quickly introduce yourself first.
Hi, I'm Martin. I'm founder and CEO of Health Excel.
Kristen?
Hi, I'm Kristen Milburn, Global Head of Digital Health Partnerships for Healthware, based in New York.
Stephen?
Stephen Krein, CEO and co-founder of Startup Health, based in New York and the West Coast.
And
States.
Sarah.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm director of Upgraded, with Health Startup Association of Finland. So hello from Helsinki. And you said it's 8 o'clock in Dublin. It's 10 o'clock on a Friday evening in Finland. But so it's the prime time.
Are you guys on lockdown as well?
Sorry?
Are you guys on lockdown as well, or what's...
Yeah. But they're slowly bringing it down. Actually, the pandemics is it's actually in a quite good situation here in Finland. I think that at the moment we get some few dozen new infections daily. So I think that restaurants are opening, schools have opened. So we're looking to slowly come out of this.
That's great. Sorry, Eugene.
So guys, no, I'm loving this dynamic. This is almost like on the Shout of Digital Health show with Jim Joyce, which some of you may know about. So a little thing, but actually that alone is 30 minutes. So we actually have a pretty limited time. And I thought about how do we, with a lot of people who like to talk, how do we make this the most impactful for the audience? And I think, as the new ecosystems are emerging or we're adjusting to it, I guess, how have each one of your ecosystem, and I've been honestly involved with kind of across the board. Sarah, I think I probably spent the least time in Finland. And maybe start with you. How have you guys adjusted with Upgraded and the Finnish startups? And then I'll sort of direct, but try to keep it to a minute or two.
Short and sweet.
Keep us moving. Yeah.
Right. Well, I would say that in Finland, the ecosystem, the startup ecosystem, of course, took a hit, and since it was quite sudden, I think that it took some few weeks to actually get a grasp of what's going on and how is this affecting like everything, economic, sales, investments, and all that. But I think that pretty soon we are, of course, ourselves also a part of several ecosystems, and we're just one ecosystem in a group of many. But I think that when it comes to health ecosystems, I think that the only really visible change was that all events were shut down. But otherwise than that, I've been surprised how many good news we've been getting from health startups just in these past few weeks. We've seen successful funding round, we've seen exits, we've seen partnerships being announced. So there's a lot going on, even though people are working from home. So the world hasn't stopped or ended, and actually it kind of seems that there's a silver lining for health startups especially.
And I'm going to jump to Steve just because I'm kind of in and out a lot of the startup health calls as a health transformer as well. And, I'd love to kind of hear your perspective of how the startup health transformers, I see a lot of the CEOs and a lot of the companies kind of pulled together. So curious kind of what you're really seeing on the ground. And of course, you guys have a global footprint as well.
Yeah, no, thanks, Eugene. Hi, everyone. I'm incredibly, reflective of what has occurred over the past 10 weeks or so, as at first everybody was in shock, but I think very quickly entrepreneurs in particular who are used to kind of being shocked on a daily basis by different things at all levels kind of got their self situated and their mindset shifted to forgetting about who they were and focusing on who they will be, and really looking at this new historical divide between before COVID and after COVID. And right around mid-March, Thomas Friedman in the New York Times wrote an article about BC and AC and this notion of the idea that we'll look back and this is a moment where everything changed, almost like a lightning bolt or a meteor hitting. And I think for health startups and entrepreneurs in healthcare, we've been expecting over the last decade a very slow revolution. And what I think we're now facing is a very fast one. And so, in almost a matter of days, if not weeks, we saw the global army of entrepreneurs, especially in startup health, but I think in all of the communities around the world, mobilize to either adapt their solutions to be relevant for COVID, for pandemic care, for things even outside of the pandemic that are being affected by the pandemic, and respond immediately by realizing that in order to be relevant and useful, they almost needed to forget about what they were doing or even what struggles they were up against. And so I've been inspired by the 100 and I think 60 at last count solutions that have been either created or iterated upon to be relevant for hospital systems, for healthcare workers, for patients from our community of 330 plus entrepreneurs around the world. I think the biggest thing, you talked about ecosystems, Eugene. I think whether or not it's in Helsinki, which we spent a lot of time in and we have a lot of startups in, or throughout the United States or any country, the thing that makes all of this really unique is the mindset of the entrepreneurs and innovators and investors who are here, who are eternal optimists and who believe that even when it didn't look like it does today, we needed to do something to transform health. So I'm excited by what has happened over the last 8 or 9 weeks in terms of innovation, not obviously in terms of how it's impacted people's health, but on the positive side, how we've all risen to the occasion to be problem solvers and useful to everyone around the world.
Yep. Thank you, man. And Marty, I'm just going to jump to you. I think you've also been around the block with Health Excel. You have a lot of corporate clients, but also kind of in the network and ecosystem are the startups.
Mm-hmm.
Similar question. And I think I'm freezing up a little bit here. So hopefully you guys can hear me.
Sorry, Eugene, what's the question?
Did you guys hear me? Of course, live and froze up a bit. So I was just jumping to you, Marty. So I don't know how much you guys in the audience of 5,000, hopefully 7,500 now have heard.
Yeah. So my experience is I was on my way to HIMSS and I cancelled, and I was so happy. Like I was so happy not to have to go to HIMSS, and so happy not to have to go to these events. And I'm hoping that I don't have to go to JP Morgan. And I guess the reason I say all that is because what's really nice is that you think about all that crazy stuff that goes on at these events and everyone running around. And actually, what's nice about all the bad stuff about this, but what's nice about what this is that people are connecting as individuals, and so I'm just being human about it again, and just like recognizing that we're probably all doing this from our homes, and a lot of my team are like trying to do these calls with children on their laps, and I'm just trying to deal with all the stuff that goes on in life. So it's probably been a great leveler for everybody in terms of just like what the hell are we doing, and also giving some meaning to all this cool technology. How is it actually helping people? And what we've kind of learned over the last 10 or 12 weeks, however long it is that there's huge value in just connecting people. So we work with a lot of the top brands in the world, a lot of the big pharma and the big health systems. But actually, when it comes down to it, it comes down to individuals, and individuals who are trying to change the system. And how do you make it easier for them to jump on a Skype like this or to share stuff? And so we're starting.
People work with people, right? And I know, Marty, I'm just going to point out. So I think, we've all, and I'll come to you, Kristen, in a second, we've all been at events, and some of us miss, at least I missed the hugs part, maybe not necessarily the hymns.
Not so much.
I know, you're not a hugger, Marty. I know. But I think, I mean, look, this is a great example of what, Frontiers and the team have pulled together, kind of on the spot. And this is happening more and more. And so, I guess, Marty, how are you keeping that ecosystem and the network together?
Yeah.
I'm just kind of honestly curious.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, there's so many webinars, like there's hundreds of webinars out there. I don't think any of us need another webinar. What we need is ways to connect them with, peers, right? So one of the things we've just started to do is these digital lunches. So they're like small groups, 4 to 10 people to actually, talk about, okay, what's actually going on? Like, what does it mean? How are you adapting? Like, how are you kind of taking advantage or not? How are you, simple things like we have a new person starting on Monday, how are we onboarding people electronically? Yeah, like the world has changed, and I hope that some things will go back to normal, but I also think it's kind of fundamentally changed about how we're going to interact with each other. And so that's, just simple, like we're doing these digital lunches, taking topics, trying to bring small groups together to promote dialogue, not to promote kind of promotion or
themselves.
Broadcast, like just people talking to each other about, hey, we're all trying to make this industry better. We're trying to improve things, but let's not talk at each other. Let's try and talk to each other. And that's what we're trying to promote.
And Kristen, I mean, same question, right? So I think just observations that you've had, in Healthware group overall, and the partnerships and kind of that ecosystem. And again, I think all of us on the screen, it truly is a global ecosystem of players.
Yeah, I would say, the Healthware ecosystem, in concentric circles moving out. I mean, our first priority when this all happened, and particularly because we're based in Italy, and the Milan area was very hard hit. Our first priority was, making sure that our employees are safe and that we all adapted to the remote working environment. Next was doubling down on supporting the startups within the Healthware Ventures portfolio. You heard about one of them previously, Pagina Medica, which pivoted and adapted very quickly to what was happening on the scene there. And you'll hear about another one following this session called HealthTunes, which is going to be helping to alleviate some of the mental health issues that we expect have already started, but are going to be reverberating as time goes on. And then the next thing was really connecting with our clients, our pharmaceutical clients, and taking the learnings from what we're learning from the startups and matching that with what we're seeing with the life sciences companies. And how can we take the learnings and share them across the board? And then, the other thing is this entire event, the entire mixed media broadcasting studio that we've put together on the top floor of the monastery that we're in Salerno that you saw previously. Putting that together was no small feat, and we did that, and we felt like the investment was worthwhile because we know that people are going to need different ways to connect. Now that we can't go to HIMSS and we can't give you a hug. I wish I could give you a hug right now, Eugene.
No, we can do it this way, right?
But yeah, so, and then the other thing is just bringing those conversations together and kind of, like Marty was saying, taking the learnings from what we hear about what's happening in the Middle East and in Europe, and how can we translate that to things in the US and vice versa? What can we learn from other startups that are doing similar things in different regions and adapt our product here? So that's really how we see ourselves, as an integrator of all those different pieces of the ecosystem to help move the conversation along.
And Kristen,
then lastly,
go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say the ecosystem map that Roberto had mentioned earlier. We're trying to really map, what's happening in the space.
I know that there's quite a few of those maps. I feel like we actually need to merge a lot of these maps into one global ecosystem map.
Well, that's what I hope we did.
But maybe just I'll stick with you on again, just not to use the ecosystem as a buzzword, because to me, connecting the dots and all of the players, and especially with the warp speed of 12, 16, whatever the weeks or how long you've been in this, I call it kind of twilight zone, for lack of a better term. Any good concrete examples of what actually sort of transpired in kind of the ecosystem that you guys been part of? And same question is going to go, because I want the viewers to hear something concrete that actually transpired between connecting these dots and the ecosystems coming together.
Yeah, I think one example would be, so you heard about Pagina and how they really activated the network there and onboarded a lot of physicians to telemedicine. On the other side of the coin, we have pharmaceutical clients that their sales reps are pretty much dead in the water. They're obviously not going on any sales visits, and that's a huge aspect of the pharmaceutical marketing budget and the way that they communicate their brand. So one thing that we've started to do is, and recognizing that those doctors also, their lives have completely changed. If they're not on the front lines, they're at home, and they're also getting onboarded onto telemedicine to help still treat those patients whose chronic conditions didn't go away during this COVID crisis. So we have developed, and by the way, to a lot of doctors, this is new. Telemedicine is brand new to them. So it's been like kind of hoisted on them. So they have a learning curve. So one of the things we've been doing is creating a learning module that pharmaceutical companies can sponsor for specific therapeutic areas, like neurologists, for example. How can they learn about the whole telemedicine platform, how to best engage with patients using it, and then how to treat their patients that have neurodegenerative diseases with COVID. So we've been doing these different sort of learning modules to help them.
Steve, I'll just jump to you, and then Sarah. Same question on concrete examples.
Yeah, look, I mean, since 2011, we've been organizing a global army of entrepreneurs. We call them HealthTransformers, like yourself, Eugene, who are committed to achieving health moonshots. And we've always believed that the power of a connected community, collective intelligence, collective network is more powerful than anyone working in silos. Over the last 8 or 9 weeks, we've seen a significant uptick in the participation in all of the things that we've always offered. We have weekly office hours for our companies where we host investors like Esther Dyson or Amaya from Chiesi, or feature our health transformers like Wes Shell and Samar Hamida, who are transforming their organizations to be not only incredibly relevant, but critical on the front lines of helping families and people and healthcare workers that are working in the depths of the pandemic. And we have a incredibly deep passion for how to connect this global army in a more intimate level. We have something called HealthTransformer circles, which are groups of 8 to 10 entrepreneurs that are the same entrepreneurs gathering every month. We've increased it to every couple of weeks, where they can actually rely on each other, connect with each other, almost like a personal board of advisors. And so everybody just wants to be connected. Martin mentioned, the doing it of these Zoom webinars and things like that. And I think really what people need always is connection. And whether it's in a smaller group Zoom call, or in our case, circles, where we actually have this, unique platform outside of Zoom to do it, or it's connecting one-on-one with each other. It's really just recognizing that although we're all individuals, we're connected together. And so we believe very much that what is happening right now is adaptation to a new normal. And as we all talk about not going to these events and giving hugs like we used to, I think there's going to be new capabilities that we have access to, new things that are needed, and the ushering in, like Chris just mentioned, of digital health and telehealth into the hospital settings, where, God, for years, there's been entrepreneurs screaming from the rooftops about these technologies, but there's been very low adoption. And so I've been very aware of this difference between accelerating innovation and making sure we accelerate adoption now, because I don't think there's been any shortage of innovation over the last decade, but there sure has been a shortage of adoption. And there was a saying that I heard at the beginning of the pandemic that has stuck with me, which is, for decades, nothing happens. And then in weeks, decades happen. And I think in healthcare and for all of us innovators, entrepreneurs, and investors, decades have happened in the last few weeks.
Yeah, the preaching has come, right? Sarah, I'm going to jump in also, just some concrete examples of what you guys are doing and any deals or things that transpired from the ecosystem there.
Oh, I absolutely agree with my fellow panelists here that we've witnessed something like very almost unexpected, that we've seen the digital leap that we've been expecting and promoting for some years now, and or for many years now. So I won't just say the same things that have already been said. They're kind of obvious. I think that as an ecosystem, and we're a self-sustained association, a nonprofit, so we cannot support anybody like financially. But what we can do, and what I think that is very important for us to do, is to share any good news that we hear, because obviously these are depressing times for many entrepreneurs and for those who follow like global economy or even national economies. It's not looking very well. So I think that it's also really important for us to kind of keep the spirits up and show that, hey, there are good things happening here. We have solutions. We have innovative people who are tackling this. And one example is that we have this special webpage for any of our startups who have some COVID-19 related either service or promotion, or if they have like tweaked their service a bit or even pivoted, that we can highlight it there, and of course in all our channels to show that, hey, we're taking a stand and these people are actually working in a very concrete way to help everybody who is infected by this pandemics. And it doesn't matter like which segment they are. Are they telehealth? Are they mental health providers? Are they any kind of research tool solutions? But we just want to showcase that here we have an ecosystem that's kind of fighting back, and I think that is super important. And also, of course, finding examples outside our like own ecosystem, in the global ecosystem, and presenting them also to our own community to kind of showcase and maybe even give inspiration to what actually can be done.
Marty, same thing, and then I'm going to dive into a little bit taboo topic.
Okay, that sounds interesting.
So wake you guys up on the other side of the pond.
I'm awake. So two things. One, it's amazing, isn't it, that it took this to get people to use Zoom in this industry, or to use telehealth. You know, like every other industry figured out how to use technology, but it took healthcare, this like global crisis, to figure out, oh yeah, you could actually talk to people on screens. And you know, like it's mind blowing to me that like why we haven't got here like 20 years ago. But then on the other side of it, I think about the complexity and how little we actually know about this problem. I had lunch with a friend of mine yesterday. Used to be a medical lead at Merck, and he's a doctor. He's been studying this for like, since this whole thing kicked off. And how little we actually know about the disease, it just kind of blows me away. And yes, you see the stuff about what AstraZeneca are doing, and what they're running the trials 1, 2, and 3 in parallel. They're doing hundreds of thousands of pre-orders for a vaccine that doesn't even exist. So on the one hand, you have like this amazing ambiguity about this disease and this virus, and yet people like making these huge commercial and life-saving bets around how they're going to get a vaccine to the market. And then the other, like, we're just starting to use video conference. So it kind of says a lot to me about how healthcare from the delivery side and life sciences and discovery, like how disparate the whole thing is.
And actually, those are a very concrete set of almost sub-ecosystems, right? That
Yeah.
have not really come together in a health experience.
Right.
And actually, talk about sort of existing value chains and within it. I remember when I was living in Netherlands. I was living in Amsterdam, and then of course there's South, and there was a network of things happening up in Amsterdam and Holland, and then there was a health valley kind of south, and even within a small country, these little ecosystems did not really communicate, right? And here we are. So it's the five of us here currently, and thousands and thousands, hopefully 10,000 now, not just five watching us. And by the way, with the COVID-19 and some of the discussions around, protectionism and closing borders and questions around the European Union or not, I'm going to really challenge you guys to talk through and give your quick opinions on where we're going with this thing, right? Are we going to just post this lockdown and say, hey, if I'm in the New York system or wherever it is, or do you think that this transpired us and brought us into a parallel universe where we're actually much closer together? And I know the default answer, I think every one of you guys are going to say closer together, but I want you guys to challenge yourself a little on this. Steve, if you're trying to talk, because I saw you open your mouth first. Yep, there you go.
Yes. So look, I think everybody has a choice. You could be a complainer or you could be a creator. And I think most entrepreneurs like to see themselves on the side of creator. But the truth of the matter is, during these times, mindset matters most. And I think there's a lot of people who spend their time either complaining about what's lost or complaining what can't happen now. But the truth of the matter is we've got a great reset going on, or a great realization that it's in our own head what we can do going forward and make a shift to being useful to people with whatever it is you're doing. And I think the punchline to your question, which I think was a little rhetorical, which is just, of course, we are a global community. At Startup Health, I believe the only way we're going to achieve these health moonshots, which now includes pandemic response and pandemic care, by the way, without ignoring the end of cancer and curing of disease and access to care to everyone in the world, and mental health, which is going to be even a bigger problem post-pandemic. Each of these moonshots is going to require the collaborative effort of a global army of entrepreneurs and investors and innovators and organizations. And so now more than ever, I think we need to stay connected and remember we're connected. And more importantly than not, really make sure that we can sift through the people in our orbits and universes every day and really make sure we're connecting with those that fill up our batteries with energy, just deplete them. I've got that saying, you're either batteries included or batteries not included. And I think in this moment in time, there's a lot of really batteries included people, and I think that's what this is going to look like post pandemic, or as we move through this pandemic to hopefully get to post pandemic, a global world connected even more together.
I do find myself needing to recharge those batteries on a daily basis. So I'll jump to maybe Sarah, because you guys have been operating mainly in Finland, but just curious on kind of where you see.
Well, I obviously couldn't agree more with Steve here. I think that our only solution or way out of this is by working together. However, of course, it has been unfortunate to see some debates in EU level about like who's paying what and how is this affecting the global economy, and how do we distribute the funds from the European Central Bank, etc. This kind of, I do understand where this is coming from, but the fact is that it is a pandemic. It's not an epidemic. It's affecting us all, and it's affecting all aspects of life, not just healthcare, not just economy. It's everywhere. So I think that it goes without saying that we cannot close the borders now, and even if we built those walls, I don't think that in modern world it would just stop these kind of diseases from spreading or virus from spreading. So I think that instead of tackling it with closing borders, we need to work together to find tangible and durable solutions to to react to this kind of situation as a global community.
Kristen?
Yeah, I would say in the same way that companies have realized that, employees can be remote and they don't need to all be in an office in order to function. Patients are now realizing that they can access healthcare in different ways. So I think the fact that patients, and as Jeff calls them, consumers, we've now experienced healthcare in a very different way. We know what's possible. And so my hope is that, they're going to demand that the regulations don't get rolled back, and that they, that all the progress that's been made will only move forward versus backward. So I think that's my hope. And I think sharing across countries and across ecosystems is a no-brainer as well.
Marty, your
No,
two
you're looking
cents,
for.
or
I
maybe,
know you're
or
looking.
maybe what?
Look, some controversy. So I'll disagree just to make it interesting.
No, you don't have to. You can agree. I mean,
I think we're probably talking in a bit of a bubble here. We all agree. We're all on the same side. I think what's interesting about what's happened is that for once people are aligned. Patients, doctors, and payers are aligned about. You can use. Telemedicine, whatever you want to call it, everybody recognizes that's a good thing now because all our interests are aligned, right? So we've got a bunch of people on the phone who are all from kind of one sector of this industry. And actually, the hard part is how do we align different groups and how do we keep those aligned, right? So we're all on the same page here, but probably the challenge is how do you align. Forget about the geopolitics of it because we're not going to fix that. But how do you align the insurers and how do you align the health system? The health system, most of the health systems in the US are bleeding money at the moment. It's.
We'll see how many hospital systems will survive.
Yeah, right. But that's the reality of it. So they're super busy. They're treating all these sick people. On the other hand, you have the dirty secret is that the health systems are making a lot of money out of this. So there's a lot of different dynamics at play, and I think, getting different parts of that aligned are what's key to kind of driving this forward. So
so I like you. I wouldn't say a contrarian view. I think my sort of perspective on I don't disagree with anyone on here, but I think also to your point, the combined kind of digital health community ecosystem globally, guess what? This has now been catapulted into mainstream, right? And I think actually this is an opportunity sort of post-COVID to extend that ecosystem along that whole kind of, I'll say, value chain and invite others, and they've been invited already by default, right?
Yeah.
Think about all the regulatory changes that just happened in the last 8 weeks, let's call them, right? Just in summer everywhere. So I think this is an opportunity, but I also see a challenge on sort of for lack of a better, self-regulating as a ecosystem, and how do we adapt to it? How do we let go, right? As individuals, but also brands. And I actually do see personally there'll be this push on localization again in these.
Totally agree.
So with that, any parting words maybe from Kristen? I'm just gonna randomly pick one or two.
No, I mean, again, I think once patients experience something different, they're not going to want anything to be rolled back. And I do think some of the innovators that have been, batteries included, pushing things forward are, going to be catapulted because of that groundswell from the actual patients that are experiencing all these changes. So I think,
Excellent.
Yeah.
So I'm just Marty. I would love to, but we have this moderator chat where I've been impressed how the Italians are keeping on time better than I think the Germans. So so I'm gonna go back to Roberto. Thank you very much.
Thank you guys. Thank you, Eugene. Thanks everybody.
Nice talking to you guys.
All right. Cheers. Bye.
Ciao.
Take care.
and hopefully hugs to everyone.
Hey, Eugene, thanks for leading this squarely on time. And yes, the Italian crew has been amazing in keeping the entire event over, at the end will be 7 hours, remarkably on time. I had to say that this is the event that I've been chairing most on time that I remember. And that's great because I remember to anyone listening that all different segments will be released on demand in chunks so that you will be able to basically browse to, aside of tuning in at the right time.
So Roberto, quick question for you. I'm sorry. I know I'm reversing it. Did we increase the number of live viewers?
I'll respond later, so you need to stay tuned. And I believe there will also be somebody that you might want to watch presenting later on. So I'm sure you will be staying on the program. Thank you so much, my friend, and let's speak soon. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.